I still remember the day Uku arrived in our village. Albany was a quiet place, nestled between rolling hills and a winding river where people knew each other's names and history. But when Uku walked in, barefoot and wrapped in a simple cloth, something about her presence made even the wind stand still. She carried no belongings. No family followed her, and when the village women asked where she had come from, she simply looked at them with eyes too deep for her age and said, Far. It was the chief's wife, Mama Ayoka, who took her in. She was the mother of our village, and no one questioned her decision. Uku worked hard, pounding millet, fetching water, tending to the goats, but she never laughed. She never sang the way the other young women did when they worked. And when the village men tried to speak to her, her face darkened like a gathering storm. At first, people thought she was just shy. Then, one evening at the market, something happened that changed everything. Dapo, a young hunter with broad shoulders and a smooth tongue, made the mistake of touching Uku's arm as she passed. He meant nothing by it, a small flirtation, as was common among the youth. But before anyone could blink, Uku turned and struck him so hard that he staggered backward, his lips split open. The market fell silent. The women gasped and the men stiffened, unsure whether to intervene. But Uku merely picked up her basket and walked away as if nothing had happened. That was the first time. It would not be the last. Word spread quickly. Uku did not tolerate men near her. Some men took it as a challenge. They brought her gifts, golden beads, sweet honey, and fine cloth, but she rejected them all. Others tried to approach her with clever words, but she silenced them with a single unyielding glare. And when one fool of a man tried to grab her wrist in jest, he ended up in the healer's hut with a bruised jaw and a swollen eye. The village elders gathered to discuss the matter. This is not our way, Baba Ade, the oldest of them, said, shaking his head. A woman must be gentle and warm. She is not a woman, Mama Ayoka corrected, her voice firm. She is a wound that has not yet healed. Despite the murmurs of the village, life went on. Uku continued her chores, her strength unmatched, her silence unbroken. But I watched her closely, and I noticed something the others did not. At night, when the village slept and the fires burned low, Uku sat alone by the river, staring into the dark water as if searching for something she had lost. Then came the day of the festival, when all the villages gathered at the great clearing to celebrate the changing seasons. There was drumming, dancing, feasting. Laughter filled the air like birdsong. Even Uku could not refuse Mama Ayoka's request to come. The trouble began when Prince Olumide arrived. He was the son of the High Chief, a man of great stature, admired by many. He noticed Uku at once, standing alone beneath the baobab tree, her arms crossed over her chest. She is beautiful, he mused to his companion. She's dangerous, the man warned, but the prince only smiled. He was not used to women who resisted him, so he approached her, slow and confident. You have the fire of the gods in you, he said, his voice warm. A woman like you should be a queen. Uku did not reply. I have heard many stories about you, he continued, but I do not believe a woman's hands were made for fighting. They were made for love. And then, foolishly, he reached for her hand. The sound of Uku's slap cracked through the air like a lightning strike. The crowd gasped as the prince stumbled, holding his reddened cheek in shock. His guards rushed forward, but he raised a hand to stop them. For the first time in his life, he looked into the eyes of a woman who did not fear him. "Why do you fight, Uku?" he asked, rubbing his jaw. For a moment she was silent. Then, in a voice that sent chills through every heart in the clearing, she said, "Because no one fought for me." And that was when the truth unraveled. With her voice heavy like a storm, Uku spoke. She spoke of a father whose fist had spoken louder than his words, of a mother who had shrunk smaller with every passing day, of a home where love was a stranger. She told of the nights she spent hiding from the rage of men, of the pain she had buried deep in her chest, and of a day she swore she would never let a man's hands control her again. When she finished, silence blanketed the village like a mourning cloth. The men lowered their eyes. The women nodded, some with tears in their eyes, because they knew, oh, they knew the weight of her words. Then the prince did something unexpected. He knelt before Uku, not as a suitor, not as a conqueror, but as a man humbled. "Forgive me," he said, and in that moment, the weight of generations seemed to shift. The elders spoke of change that night. They spoke of the way men had taken too much and given too little. And from that day, the laws of Abani changed. A man who struck his wife would answer for it. A woman's voice would be heard in council. And though Uku never softened, though she never took a husband, she became something more, a symbol, a lesson, a name whispered with a respect rather than fear. And so, when my daughter asks me why we tell Uku's story, I tell her this: because there are many kinds of strength, and a woman's strength, when it rises, can shake even the roots of the tallest tree.